First, I think most importantly is why don't you guys introduce yourselves, since you're the talk of the town right now.
Go ahead.
So my name is Paul Reed. Born and raised here in the San Luis Valley of Colorado. We're here today in Alamosa, Colorado, which is my hometown.
Yeah.
And this is my wonderful wife, Kimberly Reed.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Reed. Like Paul said, we're here in his hometown, and the reason we're here is because we are sitting here at our facility, which is called Hope in the Valley. It's our recovery center. We have what's called a full continuum. So we send folks from Riffers in Recovery through our own rehab facility that offers withdrawal management, residential treatment, intensive outpatient therapy. We also offer telehealth, and we have worked on this project for the last 3 years, and it's up and running in full force. And so we try to come down here at least once a month. Right now it's going to be a little more, but Paul comes down and does meetings for all the folks here, since he's obviously been sober 17 years and in sobriety, and shares his story and hope and whatnot for the folks that are here. So it's pretty cool.
And I was lucky enough to be at your meeting yesterday and heard you speak, man. And you inspired me for sure, to the point where I was up at 3 a.m, like I usually am, and I had emailed Kim some ideas of some of the things we talked about yesterday that we'll get into. But just the way you spoke in your story, because you told everybody your story, and I guess do you tell that, maybe not the same exact story, but if you come down once a month and talk to the people, they rotate every 30 days. So most of the time it's going to be a new set of individuals that you're talking to. Is that kind of?
That's correct. I mean, the point and what I learned 17 years ago when I first started getting sober myself was you needed to hear basically three things, which was courage, strength, and hope.
Yeah.
And so what we're supposed to do to give back and to help people is to be able to offer a little bit of courage, strength, and hope, because most people that are are trying to get sober, from drugs or alcohol, lack all three of those things. And a lot of times when you could see that in someone else, it may inspire you to be able to get through what you're going through right now.
The thing that I loved the most was seeing the different reactions of all the people in the room yesterday. And obviously they're in different phases of their stay here.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe Kim, take us through, from somebody, because the goal here, right, the reason why we're filming all this is to hopefully bring awareness to other contracting, groups, companies that, we had a long talk that I'd like to hit on a little bit. Just the idea that there's so many contracting companies in the United States, and it's one of the biggest industries with the biggest problem of drug and alcohol addiction, right? Mm-hmm. For multiple reasons. And then we got into the whole mental health thing as well. But maybe for the people that don't know this, at least take us through. I really liked how you took us through the detox, and then they step over that and what that's called, what you call that here, and then how many days people stay in here and what happens after they leave.
So when somebody comes to Hope in the Valley, they arrive and they go into detox. Detox is 7 days. We get them detoxed. We transfer them over to our residential unit, and they stay in our residential anywhere from 30 days to however long it takes. We kind of meet people where they're at. Some people, 30 days, they're ready to go, and that's it. Some people, 40, they want to stay longer. They stay for 45 days. After that, we send them over to the PHP, which is partial hospitalization. So they come here and do very intense counseling for several hours, and they can go home. Or they can do IOP, which is 3 days a week, and they come back for group sessions, which is a couple hours. Like I said, we also have the telehealth, and they can do that from home, from anywhere they're at. Hope in the Valley is a lot different. A lot of people that have been here, and as you've seen last night, everybody's got a different story and how they feel. A lot of people go to rehab facilities, go to counseling, go to IOP, and it's a place they go to get sober, and they feel like the folks that work there, it's just a job. I'm going here, there's not much to it, there's not a lot of feeling. That is where we are special here at Hope in the Valley, because any and every person that walks through the door, they feel like this is their home away from home, right? It's family. Our staff that works here, they love on people like I can't even explain. But you walk through the doors and you have that feeling, that you're coming into love and care and treatment. And I know that sounds a little weird, but it's happened time after time. 339 patients later, and people still call Paul and I and say, you know, we've never seen anything like this. We've been to the big centers and we never got the things we got here. So our success rate's been pretty big because of that, because of the love that our staff gives these folks. So it's pretty cool.
There was a gentleman from Roofers in Recovery, right, that was here yesterday at your meeting, and kind of what you said, right? Like he left, he finished up his 30 days, and he was on a plane today. I think he said 8 o'clock, right?
Right.
So he's gone. But in that meeting yesterday, I kind of watched him. I'm a people watcher, right? So I was kind of watching everybody, and I saw it was really neat it was eye-opening, not neat. It was eye-opening to see the different reactions and how people were handling what you were saying. And Hunter did a really good job speaking on behalf of this, of Hope in the Valley. But the Roofers in Recovery guy that left today, he said exactly what your sentiment was, which I loved hearing. He said, I've been to other rehab facilities, and I'm just going to open up with the fact that everybody in this facility is badass.
Yep,
Like he said,
exact
everybody in
words.
this, exact
Yep.
words, everybody in this facility is badass. And right there, I started getting emotional because I'm sitting here meeting you for the first time yesterday, knowing you for a while now through, you know, the charity event that we do. And hearing him say that, and like that's how he opened it. That was his opening. And then he went on to say, you know, you guys do it right because you care. Like you really do care about us. And it just in his eyes, you mentioned, maybe you can hit on that too. I really loved, like you've mentioned twice now that you can look at somebody and just, you see a glow, right? And that was one of your aha moments when you were
Yes.
in your rehab facility on day 27, I think you said.
Yes.
So like do you have the magical, now that you're 17 and a half years sober and you've done this, do you have the magical, like, you can tell when someone's glowing or not? Explain the glow. Explain the glow, maybe your experience, because that was awesome.
You know, from my experience, right, in recovery, you know, a lot of alcoholics or addicts, like you're in a dark space. Yeah. You're in a dark spot in life. You know, you're alone. You could be surrounded. You know, an alcoholic or an addict's not necessarily holed up in a house by himself. Like they could be out and about, but I can promise you that they're alone, right, in their head. And no matter the room 1,000 people, they're the loneliest person there. And that darkness and despair and hopelessness that you face and feel as a addict is a bad spot, right? Yeah. And it really does show on people. Like when you really look at people and you look them in the eye, you see that, just that fear and bewilderment, all of those things. And, you know, seeing different people in this facility, and sometimes we're here when they first come in, and then to see them again in a few weeks, that they look like a completely different person. You know, not necessarily even in appearance. Yeah, sometimes they gain a little bit of weight because now they're eating a healthy meal and all those things. So you have those things, but just to see their spirit, right, kind of flowing out of them, you know, their aura of being a person that, I talked about it last night, the impending doom feeling, right? The impending doom of just knowing that no matter what's going to happen, like it's going to be bad. That's a feeling that most of them have, that I had for many years. To see that starting to literally leave them, like that's what it's about. That's where that glow starts to come, when they're starting to lose that impending doom feeling. And it's a miracle to me.
Can you explain the story again, if you're willing, about you were on day 27 and kind of how you were feeling up to that point? Yeah. And then you also mentioned that I loved, don't be that person.
Right.
And like, I think at one point you even mentioned, like Hunter mentioned it when he was talking. He's like, I didn't want to be that person. You were on the phone with me, or at some point Hunter heard you say that. And he's like, that stood out to Hunter.
Yeah, so I think for everybody, I mean, as you're starting your addiction or alcoholism or whatever is going on, we all know somebody that, you know, I call it like, that's that guy. That you look at him and you're like, I will never be that guy. Like, you know, I'm hungover as hell this morning, but like that guy, like I will never be that guy. Like he's out of control. Yeah. And, you know, over the months, years, whatever you want to call it, like all of a sudden one day, like I woke up and I was like, I'm that guy. Yeah. You know, and to me, what had happened, I was locked in the bathroom at my house. I had my 2 kids there, and I was smoking crack in the bathroom at my house. They were banging on the door, knocking on the door. They were hungry, you know, 7 o'clock at night, whatever, hadn't fed them. And I'm locked in smoking crack. And I could remember, taking the hit, and I'd seen myself in the bathroom mirror, and I said, holy shit, like, I'm that guy. Yeah. I am that guy. And my answer, because I was already so far in my addiction, instead of really doing something about it, my answer to that was just don't look at myself in the mirror again, right? And that's one thing I had to get through. I mean, I have the image of my kids, outside the door, like, because when I finally came out, they were sleeping in the hall, like they went to sleep right there. They were
Like waiting for dad to come out.
Yeah, waiting for dad to come out. And I was that guy, and I didn't know what to do besides just don't look at yourself in the mirror, like, then maybe you won't realize that you're that guy. And so luckily got into rehab, and we mentioned the day 27. When I went to rehab, it was for me to learn how to use drugs and alcohol like a gentleman. That was my intention, because I didn't think it would be possible to go the rest of my life without drinking or using again. But if I could just learn how to control it, because I had lost control, maybe 30 days of sleep and rest and food and all these things, a little bit of counseling, I could learn how to use drugs and alcohol again, because there was no way that someone like me could never use or drink again. Yeah. And that's really where the miracle happened. I seen a girl that came in with the same addiction I had, with the meth addiction, and she was lifeless, just like I was. I remember seeing her just haggard, like I'm sure I was. Yeah. She was just, not someone that you would want to be. She was that girl.
Yeah.
Right. And day 27 of me being there, of, trying to learn how to use drugs and alcohol like a gentleman, I looked over one day in class, and she was literally glowing. Yeah. Like she was glowing. And that was, it was a pretty big breakdown. I didn't share last night that the whole part of, I literally broke down crying like a,
At that moment?
At that moment.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know what's happening, but like, I want that. Whatever she has, I want that. And I knew I was like, I didn't know what to do. So like, I'm literally crying. I leave the class, go out and smoking cigarettes. The counselor comes out, I was like, what's wrong? I was like, whatever she has. And he changed my life with what he said next was, Paul, all you have to do is be willing.
You said that last night.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All I had to do was be
got
willing.
chills.
Yeah. And so from that moment on, day 27 and a half, here I am 17 years later, I'm still willing to do what it takes to get this.
I want to talk to you a little bit, because Paul said it coming in here, you're the mastermind, right? What did it take for you to get this started? Because I know you shared with me, but I think it's important. And then I think it's important that everybody knows that the minute Kim said, I'm never doing this again, like, what was it, Paul? 2 minutes later, she's like, 20 seconds later, yeah, I'll probably open it up, another one in Colorado somewhere, because I don't have to get licensed again in Colorado. So I'll probably do it. But you are the mastermind. It's Hope in the Valley with Paul's name on it.
Yeah.
But you grinded for how long, and what did it take?
It took everything I had, literally 10, 15 hours a day, just digging in. Like, I worked harder than I've ever, I don't know. I mean, it took everything. I can't even explain it, because you never go, I'm just going to open a rehab center and it's going to be easy. This is a medical rehab center. I have medical doctors that work here. To get the licensing and learn everything, it just takes a lot of grit. You dig in and you just do it. The facility we bought was an old youth detention center, so it took a year during construction, gutting it, getting everything up to par, to get it livable for these people. So after we did that, then we had to dig into all the compliance, all the licensing, and then finding the proper staff. And as everybody knows, that owns companies, like, it's hard to find the right people to do what you need them to do. So it took everything I had. I put my family on hold, my husband on hold, my life on hold, and I just dug in. But it's the greatest reward I've ever achieved.
I run my own company, and I'm a small entrepreneur, so I know what it takes to like go 15 hours a day and stuff. I'm willing to put in the work, kind of like you are, but I mean, the gratitude that they were giving both of you yesterday And at one point, I think you started.
Oh, I
tearing
did.
up.
I did.
I had to
couldn't-
like pat
couldn't
you on,
handle
like,
it.
good
You
job,
did.
because they were complimenting.
Yeah.
They were so grateful.
Even
of both
now,
of
I'm
you.
like, whew.
Yeah. So it was all worth it.
Yes, very much.
So much so that you're ready to.
Well, and I'm going to have more. I say no because it's just a lot, but we're going to do it.
And this is on camera, so
I know.
we have
Right.
this recorded.
Come back down now.
Yeah.
No, it's 100% worth it. Like I'm very blessed and lucky in the fact, like, sometimes I get to come in and get the glory, and Kim's the one that did all the hard work. My name's on the facility, and I get to come in and speak and do these things. But we're very fortunate that what Kim and the team and everybody did to put this together is an amazing accomplishment. I kind of thought when we were like, hey, let's open a rehab, really all we needed to do was, get a few rooms, hire a doctor and a couple counselors, and you could open up a rehab center. Didn't
Typical
know all the
dude.
different
Yeah.
licenses,
Yeah, easy peasy.
given all the requirements. I mean, it's a lot more than running a roofing company,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's a massive undertaking, and so to be able to pull it off, and like here's what we've said: no matter what happens, like, the fact is, and then there's a lot more than one, but there's been one person that's came through this facility that has broke generational curses.
We talk about that,
Yeah.
the generational.
That's a thing down here in the valley. And before we
I
get
think
in,
it's everywhere.
well, yeah, but it is
especially
down
bad
here,
of
absolutely.
literally generational curses.
Yep.
It was neat last night to hear. Actually, one of the counselors was talking about
Yeah, how she
had
broke that.
generational curses. Like, literally, her grandpa was, she said, plug. And for those of you who don't know the drug world, like, her supplier, that's where
Was her grandfather.
was
Her
her
that's so
grandfather,
bad.
and her dad was a dealer, and her brothers were dealers. And here she is today, healthy and sober, and teaching people what she does to stay sober.
And
It's
she got
amazing.
Employee of the Month last month.
And it was tough for her
and-
though, right?
Yes.
You mentioned like
Yeah.
she struggled a little bit even
Yeah,
being
even
here,
when she started.
and being the great leaders
Yeah.
that you all are here, you moved her to a different position,
Yeah.
a different part of the facility, and she's
now
flourished.
Thriving.
Now
She's glowing.
Yeah, she is
She's
glowing. You
glowing.
see it
You
in
seen it
her.
last
Yeah.
night? That
I saw
lady
it.
is glowing.
She started getting
Yeah,
emotional
and-
just
well,
talking about it.
she's incredible. We are so blessed to have her, but literally, I couldn't have done any of this without the team that I have, because it's not about what I have done. And although I may have put in the 15 hours, I literally had the right people beside me. You can't do anything great without having the right people next to you. And that's how I was able to achieve this, right? And that's how we are able to continue this, because the staff here, hands down, like, I can't do this without them. We don't live here. We're 4 hours away from here, so us coming down once a month, we heavily rely on our leaders here, and they are just the best of the best.
You mentioned some things because, well, first of all, Jordan and I learned a new word. What am I called? Normally?
A normie.
A
normie.
You guys are
I'm
both
a normie.
normies. Yeah.
We're Jordan and I are normies because I'm not a recovering addict.
Right.
But I have a brother who is, and I've learned a lot from him. And obviously, I'm in the contracting space, and I've met a lot of recovering addicts. We've talked about Ty being one of my best friends in the industry. He's like a brother to me.
Yeah.
But so I'm a normie. But you also, in your talk to the group yesterday, you mentioned. I want you to hit on the idea, the concept of when you were the cool kid. Everything you did was cool. You went to parties, you were cool. In high school, you were cool, and you didn't want to hang out with the dorks. You used the word dorks like twice. So awareness-wise, there is this concept, right, of an addict, at least from what I understand. So I want you to explain it. But like, there's a concept that, an addict might not want to be a normie, or
Correct.
be somebody that's
so true.
sober because they're dorks.
Because in school, that's where it starts, literally.
Yeah, I mean, peer pressure, right, is hell. But yeah, I mean, for a lot of people like myself, you started out, fairly normal kid, one of the popular kids, and you thought what you were doing was like the fun stuff, right, like the cool stuff, and as you get through it, you have this perception, even though, like, man, I'm over here doing horrible things, and my head is so screwed up. Like, but I don't want to be a normal person. Like, that sounds even worse. It's like, that's our addict brain, talking. And it's a struggle when you do get sober to be like, man, I got to go live like that dork. Like, hell, I'm used to, going to the bar tonight, Tuesday night. Like, everyone goes to the bar on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday nights, right? Like, I'm not going to be a normal person and like go home.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's a weird concept. Even though, I mean, that's deep down, that's really what you crave. It's just your addict mind telling you, you know, I call it the good wolf and the bad wolf that's on your shoulder, you know, telling you which way you should go.
Love it.
Nerd life.
Nerd life.
Nerd
life
life.
rules.
Absolutely.
Let's chat about what we talked about yesterday, which was where you kind of you were talking to someone at NRCA, I think it was, or I don't know where you learned
Yeah.
it, but just the idea of
Stats. Yes.
mental disabilities or mental health is
Mental health.
mental health is even a bigger crux than even not more so, but it's very impactful in the contracting industry where, you know, suicide rate is much higher in
Yep.
the roofing
7 times.
industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about that. Talk about not the shift you're making, but how you want to evolve Roofers in Recovery to
Right.
include and what that might look like for
So
you.
we have a major problem in our industry. Like, I've known we've had a major problem just with addiction,
Yeah.
right? Because like that's our world, that's what we've been in. I knew it was huge. You know, and here's where it starts. If you polled most people that are in roofing right now today, if they would look back in second grade when their second grade teacher said, "Hey, little Johnny, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Like 99.99% of them did not say roofer. No one says roofer when they're a little kid that's what you want to go into. Like, that's just not an industry that you're going to go into. Like, it's considered a pretty bottom tier industry on the pecking order of
Right.
things, right? Like, hey, I want to go be a whatever engineer, like all these really important jobs. Like, no one wants to be a roofer. I will say this, the majority of people that come into our industry are not coming in on a winning streak in life. It's kind of the last resort job that you go to.
Yeah.
I got fired from 7-Eleven. Maybe I could go over here and go to a roofing company because it's a little more acceptable. I mean, that's why I got into roofing.
Yeah.
I got to go up on a roof and drink beer and smoke weed all day when I was 18 years old. That's a great job. So the people that we bring into the industry, one, they're not, generally speaking, they're not on a winning streak in life, right? So we're already starting off with people that already have things going on, and it's a little more accepted into our industry. As we start looking at the numbers, which were very eye-opening, I heard this from the CEO of NRCA, and it blew my mind. He was talking about in 2023, there was 38 people that died that fell off a roof and were killed, right? And that's a big number, right? That's a big number, and so we put a lot of focus on, guys, we all got to harness up, we got to do all the safety stuff and do all this. But then he went on to mention, here's where the real number is. There was 5,000 people that committed suicide due to mental health or addiction in our roofing industry. 38 people, right, versus 5,000 people. And listen, I'm not minimizing the 38 people. You know, that's a terrible, terrible tragedy to lose 38 people that way. But there was 5,000 people that no one has ever talked about.
Yeah.
No one has ever mentioned that there was 5,000 people that were talked about, that passed away because of mental health and addiction. And I think those are the only people that we know. That number is probably a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Right? That's a huge problem because the people that we have in our industry, I love them, like I'm one of them. We're great people. And somehow, like it's this hidden little secret, this job, this career that we have in roofing, it could actually produce more money for you. You got a better life than
Oh,
an
absolutely.
engineer or a
Doctor,
doctor
yes,
or a
absolutely.
lawyer, right? Like I don't even have to pay to go to college to
you
do
can.
what we do.
Correct.
Getting the message out of like, guys, like it's out there because one, we don't like to talk about addiction, the stigma of addiction anyway. We kind of hide that. Like it's embarrassing if your cousin or your brother or your dad or yourself is a drug addict. Like you don't want to talk about that to anybody. It's, I'm making this up, 10 times more embarrassing to be like, I've got mental health problems.
Yeah.
Right? That stigma, excuse my cough, that stigma is worse than the drug addiction or alcoholism stigma because we have a macho industry that is predominantly male driven and we're not going to talk about our feelings.
Right.
I don't even like to talk about my feelings with my wife, let alone go to my guys at work.
Yeah.
We're up on a roof, big macho guys standing up on a roof, and I'm going to be talking about like, yeah, you know, I just don't.
depressed.
I don't feel. I'm depressed today, full of anxiety today.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, but it needs to.
So what we're going to do to try to evolve Roofers in Recovery into, making sure that the mental health is an awareness as well as the addiction is, we want to be able to reach the roofing contractor and say, listen, when you guys have your morning meetings or your weekly meetings, like these are real things you need to talk about.
Part of
Like
your
no
toolbox
bullshit. Part of your toolbox talk. Here's a checklist. Like check in with your people and don't check in with them just once. Like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, do you need anything? Like that has to be a very consistent mental health and addiction. So, if you're not doing that, you're going to miss the boat. It has to be a daily, weekly, monthly, everyday.
It needs to be part of the core culture
Yeah.
of our
Absolutely.
companies, right?
Yep.
Because imagine if we could reduce that number, get that number down to 4,000, to 3,000,
Yeah.
to 2,000, whatever that is. So we're not only saving that one person's lives, we're saving generational
Yeah.
things.
Well, and it has
Generational
to start
things.
with the ownership because your teams, everybody in your company looks up to you as an owner, right? So if you're not rolling this out and you're not making it cool to have these discussions, they're sure as hell not going to, right? So it has to be talked about and comfortable.
Do you know if there are companies, contracting companies, roofing companies, whatever you want to call it, that have programs in their workplace?
I think there's lately
the West Coast more so than
between
anything.
Western states has been doing a
Yes.
few things, NRCA. So I think there's a handful. I mean, there's not 100. I can tell you that.
It's
There-
brand
there-
new. Like
there are a
people just don't
handful.
do it.
Well, I think if there's a group that can do it,
Right.
Oh, we'll
you
push
guys
it.
can. I was like, you should get in front of some of these manufacturers and supply companies. They do shows and expos all over the United States all the freaking
Thank
time,
you
12
for
months
that,
out of the
yes.
year. Whether you, maybe Paul or even, you, Kim, getting in front of contractors at a presentation and sharing that. And not only just the contractors, but also sharing it with the territory managers, because let's be honest, the territory managers of manufacturers and supply companies, their reach is greater than, anybody really. So, and you mentioned like you were worried that, a manufacturing company or a supply company wouldn't feel good to have someone come in to present to their contractors because of the stigma. Did I misread what you were saying, or
No,
do you feel like
that's what I do feel that. I think that again, it's a stigma that we have and no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
And we need the help from the suppliers and the manufacturers to get this out to, because they're the ones that have the connections and the links to all of the roofing contractors out there.
Well, and I think it all boils down to the safety factor. It all goes with the safety, because if you're not touching on these topics, you're putting your people at risk.
Man, I'd call all of them out. I mean, you can put this on video. Like, I hope that just your message and what we've filmed today and what we're going to continue to film can be shared with some of these manufacturers and supply companies, and they realize, like, damn, you know what? This is something that's very important in this industry, because it is. It's so important. And I, listening to your story and watching you talk to the individuals yesterday, and knowing that one of the individuals was from your organization, your nonprofit of Roofers in Recovery, it was pretty amazing, man. So is there anything else you would like to share?
And again, being a normie, I would say, right, into the industry, but having the heart, and really what that is a servant heart. And I think that's what goes back to this facility. Is what we look for when we're hiring people is the servant heart, right? But that's a big thing, and thank you for having a servant heart of taking on a cause like that we have and seeing the importance of it, and helping us get the message out. The message is there is hope, right? And you can change. I did.
My brother did.
Yeah, your brother
Yes.
did. Kim has.
Yeah.
If I could do it, you could do it. Anybody can type scenario. And it's important because someone's going to see this, and someone's going to be like, man,
And
I need that.
it spreads, right?
It does.
From a normie's perspective, the golf tournament that I've done, like my brother, just to tell his story, and I'm sure he doesn't mind, but it got to a point where he woke up on the couch one day after drinking, a few bourbons the night before, and didn't feel good the next morning, and just realized he went up to my sister-in-law and said, hey, because you mentioned this earlier, he said, I'm gonna just take off a year and learn how to become a person that can responsibly drink.
Right.
And he did the 90-90.
Yeah.
And he said after the first week, the first couple AA meetings he went to, it was kind of like listening to stories, being like, dude, man, this guy's fucked up. Like,
Right.
I don't do any of that. And then he started thinking, and by the third, fourth session, AA meeting, he was like, okay, I'm an alcoholic,
Yeah.
and
I
these
go on
stories
this
actually
road.
all relate to what I do in
Yeah.
my life. And here it is, however many years or months later, I think he's at 19 or something like that. But it spreads, right? So if you can create awareness like you two are doing, my brother became sober, and then his good friend Dan, who is the guy that runs the tournaments, you've met Dan online, runs the golf tournaments that we host, because of his relationship with my brother, is now sober. Right? So, right, you get one,
spreads,
that person,
correct.
it spreads.
Yep.
Listen, man, people are searching for something, right? Most people are searching for something, and sometimes if they could see a good example,
Yeah.
right, that changed their life, that's having some success from it, and that's what it's about, giving back to people and trying to be a good example. I mean, we're not perfect by any means, right? But we try to live our life how we're supposed to. And just be here for the next person. I mean, we didn't get here on our own, right? Like I would say, God definitely number one, but there was also a lot of people in our life that put a hand out,
Yeah.
right? And
Helped us
that's
along
what
the
you
way.
have to do. There's a kind of a saying in AA that you can't keep what you have unless you're willing to freely give it back.
Yeah. Well, learning more and more from you, my brother, and stuff like that. I like when you mentioned the big book, I knew what that was.
Yeah.
So I'm learning slowly. So this trip was more for learning as well. But you mentioned the glow, so it's just like let's get that glow back in people,
Yeah,
and it doesn't just
Absolutely.
affect you. I really like this story, and I could go on for the next 5 hours. I know we're probably running out of time, but you mentioned the glow. You two or somebody had gotten sober and was in recovery, and you remember looking at old Facebook posts because you're a stalker. Let's get that
Yeah,
on. Let's
yeah.
get that on
I
video.
do
Paul
stalk
stalks people on Facebook. So, but you mentioned, you looked at past pictures
Yeah.
of this gentleman's wife, and then you saw a picture of, after recovery, after he became recovery, and you saw like that glow.
It's literally my favorite success story that we have in Rippers in Recovery. Of seeing a gentleman come into to rehab. We put him into rehab, and he went for 30 days, and he got out, and he started working a program. And to this day, he's got a couple years. He's still working a program, but I'll never forget seeing his picture his wife took, a family picture, a selfie of him and her and the kids, and I specifically remember seeing the glow and the smile in her. Right, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, did she? And at first I was like, did she redo her hair? Like, what?
Did she win the lottery?
Yeah,
Why is she so
no,
happy?
and it's
different?
very
Like, what's
obvious.
different?
It's so cool.
And so I went back on their pictures, said, Facebook friends with them, went back on their pictures, and you could see the fear,
Yeah.
the bewilderment, the terror on her face.
Yeah.
And so if you were to look at this lady's pictures today, 2 years later, you still see her glowing.
Yeah.
And then you see the kids glowing.
Yeah.
Right? And like, that's what it's about. Like,
Powerful.
he's doing great.
He's
right?
doing amazing.
And I love him. But like, I'm more excited
Yeah.
about his wife and his
That's what you
kids.
said yesterday, which
like,
I loved.
That's what's so cool, is to see the wife is now being able to be her
Yeah.
and not have that fear and anxiety.
And the family's their true selves.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a win. That's generational stuff right there.
Well, I love it.